3, 2.
Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Jeff from Junior Hockey Advisor. It is Sunday night, and I am so excited to be here. Tonight, we are going to explode your mind with some real numbers. I'm going to open up, hopefully, some very, very biased thought process that goes on with our discussion groups and with a lot of our people that are involved in our group. And, you know, God bless everybody, but there's some numbers out there that I hope you just enjoy, and we'll break it down and have some fun. What I'm talking about is I've been watching the group and I've been watching the discussion over the last, I try not to I let it go. I want it to go somewhere. By the way, who am I? I'm Jeff Colson. I am the Junior Hockey Advisor. I've been doing this for several years now. I've been in the industry for 30 plus years. Been a general manager, coach, owner, NCAA Division III coach, youth coach, prep coach, high school coach. I've kind of done it all. I currently work as a player development person, director for the first place team in the South for the North American Hockey League. But tonight it's going to be great because we're going to break down the brick, because I've been hearing, these kids, they're all selected, and it's just the rich kids and it's just the NHL kids. Yeah, maybe that's true. But I want to show you some numbers, and I want to have some fun with the numbers. And if you don't agree, I want you to jump in on the comments and tell me what you think and why you think that, because I really would like to know, your process of thinking and why you disagree. My contention is that, is starting at the brick, maybe earlier, elite talent starts rising to the top. And it doesn't burn out like people say, if they're good at age 10, they're going to burn out by age 15 and we'll never hear from them by the time college gets around. I don't believe that. And I got proof, at least. I don't know if it'd fall into the scientific proof column, but I've got roster proof and I've got historical data that will just blow your mind away. First of all, do you know what the attrition rate for sports in general are? Do you know what the attrition rate for sports in general are for youth in the United States and worldwide? The numbers are staggering. I'll share something I pulled up a little earlier. I want to get this up, and I'll pull it up over here, because I don't want to give everything away yet. I want to have some fun with this. But what I did was I just Googled attrition rate. Let me see if I can do this where it pops up the right way. And of course, it doesn't. Let me get back to here and see where I am going wrong. Because once again, I thought I had it figured out. Let's go with screen share and see if that does it. And then we'll go over here and see if I can screen share you. There we go. Okay. So the bottom line on this is I want you to look at, I got to get in the frame there, don't I? I want to just look. We just Googled this, and it says right off the bat, in a study of participation in a bunch of different places in 78, it said 33% of the drop-off by the mid-teens. But if you go down there and start looking just at the titles, ages between 15 and 18, an alarming number of 70% of children stop playing sports by the time they turn. You don't have to go deep into this stuff. I'm just trying to throw you out some Google titles of different studies that are out there. In 2013, 80% attrition rate by the time a child is 15 years of age. And this is a general sports, not just hockey. Okay, in Canada, an attrition rate of 30% equates to approximately 600,000. It breaks down how many kids are dropping out of sports. Now, in some of these studies, and especially hockey related, the numbers are as high as 30% at age 12 and above. Every year they lose 30% in attrition, depending on how you study this. So it's fascinating to look at these numbers and say, these numbers don't bother me. I know a lot of people in the grow the sport part of it, and God bless you if you're out there and you're part of, grow the sport, you're part of trying to get kids to stay in the sport. God bless you. I have no problem with that at all. My personal opinion is I played the cello in elementary school and in middle school. I really liked it at the time, but I didn't really pursue it the rest of my life, and I'm okay with that. I played soccer in third grade. Played 1 year. I scored 1 goal. Our team scored 2 all year, and that was it. It was perfectly fine for me not to play past that. Played high school football. I played in college too, but when I was done, I was done. I was happy. I guess that was the football thing wasn't a good analogy. The bottom line is everybody plays multiple things. You have multiple passions at different parts of your life. I'm not as hung up on who stays and who goes, but the powers to be are, in other words, the USA Hockey Canada, that's a big number to them because they want to see their sport grow. And I don't have a problem with that. I don't want to see our sport shrink. But you hear all these numbers. Oh, my gosh, we lose so many players. Okay, you ready for your mind to be blown? Are you ready for – by the way, did you notice the new glasses? Yes, new frames, new glasses. And I have 20/20 vision, but my eyes get tired at night. And so the bottoms are the readers that come into here. And I went to the eye doctor. He's a fellow pilot. He's a friend. He taught me how to fly. And he's a CFI. And they put the invisible line thing on so I can still read. So my eyes get tired. I can read. So I thought they looked pretty good. I like them. I was pretty impressed. So I don't need glasses. I just wear them to accent and accelerate what I do. So hopefully it makes me better here too. Makes what I do here good. Okay, I'll say hi to some people in a second, but I'm on a roll, man. I want to get into this. So, I'm on the board and I'm watching people discuss this stuff. And I hear you guys talking about, not everybody, but, it's just a rich person's sport. And, they're all picked early in the teams are predetermined in the brick and blah, 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 And I'm listening to this and I went, okay, time out. I remember I did something a few years ago. So I pulled up some studies here. Now, I'm going to walk you through this graph here. The brick. First of all, let me get just me on here first because this is important. The brick tournament, little kids, okay? What are they, 10 when they play in the brick? I've been up there a few times. It's played in the mall. It's a good environment. But these teams are put together like a year in advance sometimes. Yes, there's professionals out there, coaches that get paid to go around and find players. Now, a lot of times they do it because they're a coach at that age group, and they get hired by one of the spring programs to put together a team to take to the brick. And the teams from the brick come, I think it's 8 and 8. I think there's 8 regional teams from the U.S. Correct me if I'm wrong, 8 from Canada, 6 and 6, 8 and 8 is something like that. That doesn't matter. Don't get hung up on the details. Although I'd like to see the details if you get them. Now, you got all these little kids, and everybody's like, it's too intense at that age. They're going to drop out of hockey. Who's good at 10 doesn't mean they're good at 12. They're not going to be good when they're in college. The rest of the kids, late bloomers, late bloomers. Okay, goodbye. The numbers are going to blow your mind. Now that I said that, let me show you this graph. All right, I want you to look at the top part here. Now, this is a snapshot. I took in the last year of the 1999 birth year, their last year of junior eligibility. So you can do the math on that. I think the 01s are in their last year of junior eligibility. So you'd have to go the 01s, 2000s, 99. A couple years ago, I did this. This is a snapshot of that time. This is not at the end of the year. And those aren't cumulative categories. That's right where those players were at that time. So what are the 99s now? 22 years old? 23? Okay. 2 years ago, they were 20? 19, 20-year-old kids? Okay. At that time, 44 of the kids were already playing Division I hockey. In the major junior in Canada, 37. So, not that far apart, half and half, which would make sense because a lot of the Canadian kids, that's the route they take. 5 kids already in the NHL. We can talk about the names of those kids. 11 of them in the AHL at that time. Only 1 still in the USHL. 3 in the NAL. You get into the CHL, there's 17. There's 8. So there's That's a total of 170 kids out of that group, and that's all of them. 7 I couldn't find. They just didn't exist. They didn't show up on any records, okay? And ended hockey. Look at this number here. Now, this is the number that just blows the doors off of all this BS about you start too soon when you go to the brick, and when you're playing in the brick, you're going to burn out, you're going to be done, you're going to be a has-been at age 12. Oh my gosh, everything falls apart. Hey, look, if I don't even know what the term is, but if you're one of those people that are just resent the fact that you didn't get picked for the brick, I can't help you there, okay? I can't help you if the brick just passed you by. But look at this number right there. The ended hockey, and if you throw in the no record, the ended hockey part, it's less than 12% of that group of kids, less than 12%, at age 20 were out of the game. But what's funny about that is some of them still played 1, 2, 3 years of high school. Some of them played all the way through high school and just dropped out that year. Okay, of that 7, out of those 21 kids. Okay, and with the no record kids, you got a total of 28 out of 178 kids that are no longer involved in hockey at that point. Now, I haven't looked at these numbers since then, but that's adulthood. Those kids have already been in adulthood for 2 years, and we're looking at a number in the you're looking at a number in the high 80 percentile still in the game. So let's throw away this BS about if you start too early and if you get too intense with these tournaments and if you start doing this stuff. Those kids, a lot of them were recruited a year before that, had been practicing and looking forward to the brick for a 10-year-old tournament. And yes, there are a lot of people up there that watch that and see where those kids are going. They pay attention to that. Yes, when you have the brick and when you have the Quebec tournament on your resume as a player, when you see that elite prospect, people go, oh, they've had some experience, with a lot of pressure on them, because you get up in the Quebec tournament, it's lights out when you make it to the semifinals and the finals and that. I mean, you're playing in front of an NHL crowd. I mean, you're literally playing in front of 15, 17,000 people going nuts for you at age 12. So you can play at a high level. You can move on. And people saying, oh, you guys know, you're on the boards, you're on the discussion group, you see these comments. But I thought it was pretty interesting right off the bat to look at these numbers across the board. So I broke it down a little bit differently. Let me see if I can move down around the graph here a little bit. Immediate attrition. I said, here's the ones that dropped out immediately after that. Oh, it was too much. 7 kids, 4%. 4%, boom, done. Okay, we're done with this. Post-high school attrition. This is the kids that made it past high school before they dropped out. There's 14 kids that played that far in before they got out. That's pretty cool. Of that total attrition, 11.9, 8% of that number I showed you just a second ago, this number up here, of those ended hockey kids, look at that. Look at that. 8% of those kids overall that ended hockey played all the way through high school before they ended. So where's the attrition coming from in our sport for the high-level kids? I would argue that the kids that are doing high-level events and doing things that are fun and exciting instead of sometimes, hey, listen, you're in this sport and I'm in this sport too, but hey, hockey seasons can get long and they can get boring and they can get stale when you're playing weekend games, weekend tournament games, and you're playing in, let's face it, another tournament where you get there on Friday, you skate 2 games, 1 game or a championship game. Oh, get back in the car and drive home and sleep. And then I get it. There is some fun to that. But when you play in these freaking cool events like the Quebec and not every kid can do this. But let's not hate on the kids that can. Let's not hate on them and try to make it sound like it's something it's not. These kids that were elite, oh, wait, it's going to get a lot better. Let's say some hi to some people, then we'll get on with more of this because I am just fired up about talking about this. Let's say hi to some people, and we'll go on and get on this again. Vinny, thanks for saying hi. Chris is on from Huntsville. Facebook user in Lindale, Texas. Go Mudbugs. Hey, Mudbugs near and dear to my heart because of my son. I got to say, go Mudbugs too until we get to Lone Star. And, I've got to be loyal to the people that, you know what this is. When I where I work, I got to do it. Thanks for the comments on the glasses. Anthony, thanks for the comments on the glasses. Dan, good to see you back. Haven't seen you in a while. Maybe you've been there and maybe I just haven't noticed. But Dan's on from Sheboygan, the second best Sheboygan. On the other side of the lake, there's another Sheboygan in Michigan that's pretty darn good too. Okay, Richard says, so should I bring my kid back to the brick tryouts? He's about to turn 9. I didn't have him try out for the spring team, so I might have a difficult time breaking in next year, but I should try. Hey, that's your choice. I can only tell you that my son made the team years ago. His team ended up winning the brick tournament, and we stayed home because he broke his wrist. And then, the regrets of at least going and having that experience with him came into play. Wonderful atmosphere. And like I said, it started a year beforehand. We were in the, it was up in Toronto, part of the Pro Hockey Development Group, I think. And I'm not plugging Pro Hockey. There's a lot of groups that do great things, but we were part of a Pro Hockey team, and the coach, was selecting kids from all over the place to play for the Toronto team. And that's years ago. I think it's a great experience. I think I think the most of the times when people attack the brick or attack the Quebec, it's either out of a little bit of jealousy or out of ignorance is not the right word. Not being educated on everything about the tournament, or not having the ability to understand the whole experience across the board and what it's like to be involved in those things. So hey, maybe you do get involved with that. Another comment comes in. I think that the high-level kids in any sport will have a lower dropout rate. I fully agree with you, but most people don't talk about that. They don't talk about the fact that, hey, look, if you're on this video right now or this live stream right now, if you're on our discussion group or our page, if you're on our website, if you're involved, that means most likely your kid's ascending up the ladder too. Okay. And of course, right now we're talking about the top of the pyramid of the top of the pyramid. In other words, you're already in that, I'm assuming that most people that are on this discussion group and on this live stream, your kids are striving to be junior players, or striving for college hockey. You're trying to move up that ladder. That puts you already up in that top echelon. Now we're just talking about the top of the top. So we're all in that, and we're all still moving up. Okay. My son met you at in Nashville at a camp. Well, that's good. I appreciate you pointing that out. Or maybe that was a cross-directional comment with somebody else. Jen, good to see you. Hello from Minnesota. And got a comment here from Kim saying, my son participated in both brick and Quebec. It was amazing. Yeah, and I should go up there and do some live video from them. I got live video on my phone of the participation level of the Quebec. We're in the semifinal game, and we as a family groups, all the families for our team, we left 3 hours early to get there to make sure we got in a good spot. And we assumed, our kids are in the semifinals. They'll probably have a section for us and say, hey, the Buffalo, team, all your parents are sitting over here. We got there, and literally, and I'll show the video. I don't know how to hook it up right now off of my phone, but we were in the last row. I was in the last row. And to show you that there's no deference to who you are, sitting next to me was Michael Pekka. His kid was on the team, long-term time captain of the Buffalo Sabres. He's sitting right next to me because we all, it was first come, first serve. And the locals, in that area just are rabid about that. They fill the place up. They bring in coolers and, noisemakers. And what's really cool about both these tournaments, if you haven't been there, is especially at Quebec, they don't allow you to be transactional, and they don't allow a bunch of booths to sell things. But what they do is they allow traders to bring all their pins in and trade them live. So you got these booths of traders set up all over the mezzanine, trading pins. And some of these pins are just gaudy as hell, huge, just monstrous pins. Like you got 8 little things you're supposed to poke in the back to hold it on. Other ones are, regular size pins, but then you see somebody going, I'll give you 10 of those pins for that one pen, and I'll give you 3 of this. I'll give you this, and this for that. And, the most popular ones I think I've saw up there were usually the honey baked ones because they put the pig on the pen. Tell me if you got any experience there. Chris, give me a chance to read up on that. You put a lot of stuff up on there. I'm sure people can read it, but I'm going to have a hard time getting through that right now. I'll read it real quick here. Okay, let's throw it up there. It's a good comment. Let's see if I can make it pop up on the screen here. Chris says, for sure that children playing in the brick are early achievers, and such achievers are often resilient towards attrition, but at the same time, it's likely for achievers across many sports, but at the same time is likely for achievers across many sports. Perhaps families, players should concern themselves less with who went to the brick and how they might burn out too soon, particularly considering many may not have even heard of the brick until their child continued to pursue hockey and the knowledge increased. Okay, good comment across the board. I like that. And that's isn't that really the case across the board? We talk about that a lot here. Really, everybody's on their own separate journey. Some people figure this stuff out early and they start doing their homework and their research on, what's what, or you're a legacy family. You've been involved in hockey for a couple of generations or maybe even one generation. That helps a lot. It really helps when you've got family members, older brothers, fathers, grandfathers that have been involved with the sport for years. That's why Minnesota is what Minnesota is when it comes to hockey. You've got just family after family after family that are, 5 deep into the generational thing on hockey. And they've all played for the same high school, all out of the same rink. And you don't see that as much in other areas. Maybe Toronto, maybe Detroit. But, in the new markets, you don't have that same thing. And in the growing markets, you don't have that same thing because in the growing markets, it's usually the first time a kid's played. It also helps with the second and third child. The first one gets involved and you kind of bump off the rails a little bit, figuring out how the sport works. When number 2 and number 3 come along, they absolutely have an easier go at being in the right place at the right time and lining themselves up with events and things. So with that said, let's jump back into the sharing of the page here. I want to show you something. Okay, this to continue a little bit, I just broke this down, and this is playing professional at 20 years old. Of that group, 9% were already playing professional out of that brick group. So think about that. You're in a brick group with a bunch of 10-year-olds. 1 out of 10 of those kids is going to be playing professional hockey in a few years. That's hard to believe. CJHL and NCAA together, and all those together, you got 60% of the kids. Now remember, when you look at this number here, if we went back and looked at those CHL kids and we looked at those kids in the NCAA, of those 51% right there, you are absolutely going to see a bunch of those kids, and this is another time for me to do this at another time. I just grabbed this because I was frustrated reading some things, and I had thrown this together a couple of years ago. So if we go back and look at it now, at that number there, that 9% of players playing professional at 22, all these NCAA kids are done, okay? Or they're not all done. 99s aren't done by any means, but you're going to start seeing those numbers jump over here. The CHL kids, the major junior kids are done, and now those kids are playing in the East Coast League, they're playing in the AHL, and they're playing in the NHL because although there are a handful that were playing right at 18, 19 years old of that 99 group, Quinn Hughes and a couple others, the majority of those kids that were draft picks were still here. So let's have some fun now. Let's jump into something else on the same topic. And you guys know that I live and die by statistics, and I live and die by using elite prospects. So what I did was I went into elite prospects. Everybody here can do the same thing. You don't have to be in the industry to use elite prospects. And let me see if I can, you might not be able to see this. This is the 99. What I did is went into the brick and I put in the birth year of 1999 and I pulled up all the 99s that played in the tournament. Okay. Now, I didn't want to go to the top of the list. I went to the bottom of the list first. So I went to the very bottom, and here's 174. And I want you to look. The bottom 10, there's a draft pick. The next 10, there's 2 draft picks. And you go up, you see draft picks all the way through in the stratification of this group. So it's not top heavy. Man, I'm having a problem speaking tonight. It's not top heavy. If we go into the front, of course, the very front is top heavy, but in the middle is pretty good. Let's go to the first page and look at this too. So, and these kids were spread out, Americans, it was pretty even between Americans and Canadians on who the draft picks were. Just waiting for the page to come on board. There we go. So once again, I'm on Elite Prospects, and I'm looking at the 99 birth year kids that played that year in the Brick. But they didn't play in 1999. They played their year, which I think was 2009, 2010, that year. So you look at the top, and although these kids are pretty big names, like the best player in the group that year as far as points, 13 points in 5 games, Alexander Chmielewski. Let's pull him up. Where is he at now? He is playing in the NHL. He had a game in the NHL this year. In 2020-21, he had 5 games in the NHL, but he spent the majority of the time in the AHL. Still extremely young. I mean, we're talking about somebody that is 22 years old and already has NHL game experience. A few years ago, that was unheard of. You just didn't see that guys would go for 3, 4, or 5 years in the AHL developing. But, if we kind of look at his track record across the board, I just pulled him up as one person. You played Tier 1 Elite? Huh. We say Tier 1 Elite all the time, don't we? Played HPHL, Beltire, Honeybake. Then he went to the OHL, and he had some national development team time too. He played for the U.S. National U17 team. It looks like he started off with the U.S. National team and then went to the OHL, but still got involved with them the next year too. So I'm not really sure what the deal was there on him, but I can tell you that's what your number 1 looked like. But I want you to just drop back through this list a little bit, and I hope you can see it on the screen, and just look at some of the names of these kids as they scroll by here. See if you can, pick out some names that should be pretty amazing to you. And as you go down the list, you can see these are kids that have been World Junior stars. Look at this kid here. Quinn Hughes. I wonder if he made it. I think he did. I think he's doing pretty good right now. Oh, here's another name. Brady. How do you pronounce that? Yeah, I think most people know how to pronounce that name. Chuck. I don't know. Look at this kid. So already he's got, how many games has he got in the NHL already? So he started in the NHL after 1 year at Boston University after coming out of the National Development Program. And look where he started, Tier 1 Elite. Went from Tier 1 Elite into the USHL. He went 14, 16, 18, went into the USHL playing for the National Development Program and moved on his way up, and he's in the NHL. And it just goes on and on. Have fun with this. Once again, it's not hard to do. All you got to do is go in and scroll into the Elite Prospects, throw the tournament in there on the top, just put Brick in up here in the search bar. Once you get the Brick up, then you just go down into this area here where you see all this information, and you put in the filter, 1999 birth year, and hit the apply a filter, and boom, you can pull this information up yourself and look at it. But it's amazing. It's amazing to me that there's so much success that comes out of this tournament. And, so the next thing I want to kind of dispel is, and you've heard me say this before, I got a video out there called Politically Incorrect Stuff, blah, 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 the politically incorrect advice for junior hockey players, something like youth hockey players. Go on YouTube, you can find the video. I'm never good at what my titles of my videos are because sometimes the titles change as you refresh and you change them. But the idea and the mentality of late bloomers, let's discuss this for a second. Hockey Canada, USA Hockey, you've got people inside of that mechanism. And I'm not anti either one of those groups. They're phenomenal groups. We need these groups to keep our sport organized, for officials. But sometimes I think they overstep their bounds. Now, you got to realize in mostly in the case of USA Hockey, it's a conduit for the NHL. The NHL funds a lot of money through them that gets put back into the USHL, gets put back in the North American Hockey League, gets put into College Hockey Inc., gets put into the National Development Program, and it gets put into women's hockey. So the NHL funnels, millions. I've got a video on that too. It's called How Does USA Hockey Work? You can watch that too. That's a different story. But the whole idea of this process, and boy, oh boy, I got so much I want to tell you tonight that I'm starting to lose track of things. I'm going to start writing things down because I don't want to get off topic, and I want to make sure I keep some fresh ideas in my head. The idea, though, with this late bloomer issue, you'll see people from USA Hockey get on and tweet, or they'll say, see, this guy played AA hockey up until he was 26 years old, then he made it in the NHL. See this guy, he played house hockey and he only owned one skate until he was 18 years old, and he still made it to the NHL. Okay, there's always anomalies. Always. Now, you that have been around a lot, you might remember, I used the example a couple years ago. Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and who was the third one? Oh, it was Dennis Rodman. ESPN just did a phenomenal series on those, 3 Chicago Bulls, okay? And in every case, they were called late bloomers. Michael Jordan got cut as a sophomore from his high school team. Michael Jordan got cut when he was 5'10". When he came back at 6'4" with the same skill set, he was one of the best players around. He had the same skills at 5'10". He got taller. Then they talk about Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen was a team manager. Then he grew 10 inches. Okay? He wasn't a late bloomer. He was a late grower. Okay? Michael Jordan, late grower. Scottie Pippen, late grower. And the penultimate of the 3, because his talent for basketball was not that good. He was a great rebounder, but he couldn't shoot a basketball, couldn't dribble a basketball, was Dennis Rodman. Known for his, all-star abilities at rebounding and, mucking things up. Once again, he was like 5'6" in high school. And then he grew to 6'8", 6'9", or whatever the case is while he was in community college. They're late growers. And the same thing happens with hockey players. The same thing happens across the board. If you're 5'2" and you grow to 6'4", of course people will start looking at you. Of course. If you have average to above average talents at U18 or U16 and you're 6'4", of course people are going to look at you and give you a look, a sniff, a peek in to see if you got something there. Okay? There's late growers and there's late workers. And what do I mean by that? You'll see, oh, well, that guy started in the NFL and he went to the NFL and made it at 28 years old. Well, what they forget to tell you is, between the time the guy got done with his baseball or basketball or track or whatever he was doing in high school and in college, he turned around and started putting a focus, just like Michael Jordan did, into baseball later in life, or football later in life. And later in life could be, 23 or 24. I'm not making it sound like it's late in life in that aspect of the world. But they put their focus 100% on one thing. And they achieved it. Now, they already had a lot of the prerequisites. They were either world-class speed, world-class athlete. But when they changed their focus, you can be a late bloomer when you work at something later in life, or later as a teen, or later. And that later is all relative. You can be a late bloomer in hockey at age 12 because maybe you're playing house up to there, and then you want, I'm going to get serious about this. And you start putting a couple hours on the ice a day. You start going to play pond hockey every weekend for 4 or 5 hours after your team practices, and you start actually working towards it. You can be a late bloomer that catches up at age 12 or at age 14 or age 16, but you're a late bloomer because you decided to start working late. There is nobody that just magically becomes talented. Show me. Prove me wrong. Point out somebody to me. I can tell you already, it falls into 2 categories: late grower, late worker. And if you've got an example of somebody, there's always that anomaly. Don't get me wrong. There's always the person that gets on here that's spitting in the cup going, oh, yeah, well, I know Fred. And Fred didn't even start playing hockey till he was 14. Okay, yeah, there's always that anomaly. I'm talking about the majority, the vast majority of people out there. Don't think that when somebody says, oh my gosh, if you're that good, they'll find you. That's the same mentality of being a late bloomer. Okay, no. I'm in the industry. I can tell you, nobody's out there looking for you if you're hiding from them. Put yourself in front of people. Put yourself in a situation where you can be successful. So when people say, oh, it's okay, everybody's on their own pace, I would say your pace should be better than everybody else's pace if you want to succeed in this sport. Okay? Don't rely on growing, and don't rely on this magic time in your life where it's all going to click and all of a sudden things fall into place. Because that happens because the kids that work extremely hard. Extremely hard. Okay? Let me see if there's any comments on there. I know I've been going off in all kinds of directions. What are you folks saying? Because I might be done. Trenton, Michigan, thanks for popping on. Pittsburgh, thanks for popping on. Any other thoughts out there? Please share with me. I know I've been kind of ranting tonight, but hopefully it was interesting. Hopefully there's some things that were said that you like and that you believe in. It doesn't look like we're getting many comments. We've got a lot of people watching, but we're a little thin on comments. So if you got anything to put on there, I would love to see what your thought is. And let's jump in with some conversation on this. Okay. Thanks. I got one comment that came in. Kim says, you're absolutely right. Kim, thank you. I was thinking that everybody was sitting on their hands tonight. The idea here is I want to share what the real world is versus what you're told. You always hear these, and this is, one of the videos I do, one of the webinars I do. If you go to my website, I've got webinars, and I don't push these webinars hard on you guys because I want you to feel like, I don't ever want you to think you're being oversold or this is just a tactic to get you to go buy things from me. But I do some videos. I do one on how to market yourself as a player. How do you put all these things together? And one of the first things is tuning out the dream killers. And dream killers they come in so many different packages. Your dream killer could be grandma going out to dinner with you guys after you just had a game, and grandma goes and watches the game, and she sits at the table and goes, so why do you guys put so much time into this sport? I never get to see my kids. I never get to see my grandkids. And you're always on the road. And I don't understand. Okay, that's a dream killer because she's putting a roadblock in between the family. The kids are hearing it. Your husband or wife are hearing it, depending on what side of the coin that grandma's on. And that's a dream killer. Another dream killer that's out there is your current coach. Your current squirt coach, current peewee coach, current midget coach. When you walk in at the beginning of the year and he goes, nobody in this room is going to go play in the NHL, and that's the first thing they say, and you hear it all the time. They think they do you a favor by that. They think they're doing you a favor by saying, you know what? Nobody in this room is going to the NHL, so let's just go out there and work hard and have fun. Okay, if I said that, if I was a high school teacher or a high school principal and I made that comment, and I said, you know what? Nobody in here is going to be a senator. Nobody in here is going to be a doctor. Let's just go in the classroom. We'll work hard, have fun, and you can all go to your low-level jobs from here. You'd cringe as a parent if that was going on. But we don't cringe when all these dream killers are out there, and they come in different forms and different fashions. Many of them think they're doing the positive thing. They think they're doing the right thing. They think they're actually helping you by telling you that. And I just don't believe in it. I don't believe you should ever put any barrier. You should know what the hurdles are. You should know what the statistics are. You should educate yourself on the process. But by no means should anybody say no. You should never hear no from somebody when you want to succeed and move up. I've seen too many athletes that have heard no and they went, okay, and they just keep working hard. They hear no again, they get cut, they keep working hard. They get stronger, they get faster, they get more experienced, they get a little bit more mature, whatever the case may be. So this whole idea, another dream killer, I'm just throwing out some different ideas on dream killers, all off the top of my mind. I got to remember my own webinar to make sure I'm giving you the right information. But another dream killer most people don't think about, it's the person you're taking skill lessons from or power skating lessons. They come watch your kid play. A goalie instructor watching your kid play goalie. And they come and they sit next to the parents and go, Why isn't Johnny on the power play? Well, if I was coach, Johnny'd be on the power play. I wonder why your coach isn't playing him with that kid. If I were coach, I'd be. And they think they're, I owned one of the largest skills development companies in the world for about 15 years. I was a partner in this. And we had instructors, every day, hundreds of kids coming through and developing with us. What a lot of times the instructors want to do is they want to add value. They come watch the game, they want to add value. They want to show that they're connected to you and your kid. But at the same time, that comment is dividing you and the coach now. It's dividing you and the team. And if they're saying that kind of stuff to Johnny when Johnny's taking lessons, and they're saying, well, I think you should be on the power play. It'd be great to say, you keep working hard, you got a shot at getting on the power play, let's keep doing it. There's a way to change the perspective a little bit that keeps everything positive. But it's very difficult to navigate through hockey without people picking at your dreams all over the place. When you have success, you didn't earn it. When you have success, you got lucky. When you have success, you know what I'm talking about. These are the things you got to fight, and you got to fight these hurdles to stay focused and stay on the path. Let's see what kind of comments you got coming in here, because I just went on a little bit of a rant. Okay. Kim says, my son was a late grower, but is 14. So many tell my son that he is off the charts with his hockey IQ. It's amazing skater skills, awesome stuff. It's annoying to hear. Give a kid a chance to grow. Absolutely. Nothing wrong with that at all. Nobody should write a kid off at 12 or 14. Yes, there's going to be late growers. I'm not saying that there's not, what people categorize as late bloomers. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, because there's always a kid. I've seen it happen too many times where a kid is 6 foot, plays defense. He goes to 6'4", and now he's the hottest commodity around. And nobody wanted him a year and a half ago before he had a growth spurt. Okay? So, yeah, I see it all the time. It's great to see. Comment comes in, no different than running a business. If you want to brand yourself, the exposure, you have to put yourself out there and ask for help and help others to build a good reputation. Just because you're good at what you do doesn't mean you're going to be found. Absolutely. What a great analogy of putting that into terms of business. You could have the best bakery, you could have the best repair shop, you could have the best construction company, whatever it is. If you don't get out there and get the word of mouth out there, if you don't get out there and work hard at putting your brand out there, I can't tell you how important branding is in hockey. And one of the things we talk about a lot on our webinar is about getting, just like if you're in business, and that only shows up as Facebook user. Whoever made that comment, thank you so much. But you only show up on my screen as a Facebook user because you're coming in from one of the other groups we've got going on. Anyway, one of the things we talk about is knowing, the SWOT analysis in business, knowing about the sales drip and how many times it takes a salesman to sell something, knowing how you need to know the strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats. All these things that business people do, it helps extremely if parents and children, and not an 8-year-old, but maybe you're 13 or 14, start understanding this stuff, because the drip process, getting your name known. Also, the elevator pitch. I talk about this all the time with people, having that 1 or 2 sentences that tell me what kind of player you are. Great in corners, excellent first pass kid. Okay? Will knock your head off, but has good hands. He still has velvety hands. Little things like that, where you put those messages out there and your old coach is saying the same thing, your advisor is saying, your new coach is saying the same thing, and you are in the middle as a parent helping, promote this one image, one thought process. It's like a campaign. There's no difference on this. Remember, we're not looking to change the mind of 100 Division I coaches. What we're trying to do is incrementally get our name known a little bit better in a positive light with 1 or 2. What really amazes me is, and this has happened, if it's happened once, it's happened 1,000 times over the years. I will hear somebody use a phrase about a kid and start saying things, a parent or a coach starts saying something about the kid and how the kid plays. And then all of a sudden I'll be sitting next to a college coach 2 years from then, sitting up in the stands watching the kid play, and that college coach throws the same exact nomenclature out there. That kid's really good in the corners, and man, he's got silky smooth hands. the parents started saying that, and the coach started saying that 2 years ago, but it just kept working because they kept hammering the same message. I'm obviously making that one up, but that's exactly how it works. Okay, so you have mentioned that you would do a show about Tier 3, NA3. Do you have one out there, or can you talk about that? Sean, let's do that next week. Let's do the NA3. I will spend some time on the NA3 process, Tier 3 and NA3. I'm not going to just break down the NA3 completely without talking about the counterparts, but I can do that next week for you, Sean. I will write that down right now. NA3HL. Got it. Got it on my notes. That doesn't really focus in on the notes that well. Got it. Done. Okay. Here it says, in Michigan, U18s are both HPHL and Tier 1 league scouted the same. Okay, good question. Yes, HPHL floats in and floats out. Right now, I think it's OJG, Honey Baked, and somebody else. I'd have to look to see who else is the quote-unquote HPHL teams. Usually it's like Team Illinois, Chicago Mission, and I forget who the other member is in Chicago right now. Easy to find out. Just go to Elite Prospects or go to HPHL. You can look up and see who the current 6 members of that league are. Over the course of the time that they've been involved, teams fade in and fade out of that, and they'll go back to independent or they'll go back to Tier 1 Elite, and they've moved. OJG just came into that, into the HPHL 2 seasons ago, I think it is. Anyway, yes, they're pretty much scouted the same. I would say the biggest difference is the HPHL has a much higher content and percentage of OHL looks, because there is for whatever reason, that league promotes the OHL more than the NCAA side. I'm not anti-OHL. I'm not anti-major junior. But if you have the ability to play in college and you're that talented, I don't know why you'd give up your college eligibility at 15 or 16 years old to be in the OHL. That's just my personal opinion as an American. If I'm a Canadian, I look at the world completely different because I grew up in that culture of the major junior. I grew up watching these teams as pro players in my neighborhood rink, or close to. They are pro players, but I idolized them if I grew up in some of the suburbs of Toronto. Even if you're in the Quebec Major League or if you're out in the Western League, it's a different mentality there. But the HPHL has a high content of kids comparative to the Tier 1 Elite that go into the O and get scouted by the O. And in fact, there have been years where one team will have, over the last 2 or 3 seasons, where both the Mission 16s or the OJG, those are the 2 big ones, Honey Baked 2, were getting 3-4 kids that were getting drafted into the O. And the O usually doesn't draft an American unless they vetted them very intensely to make sure that they're a good fit and they're going to actually come. Because they don't want to draft a kid and find out the kid's going to commit to an NCAA team the next day or the next week or the next month. So there's usually a lot of communication making sure that that's the right direction to go. Michael in Buffalo, sunny Buffalo. Was it sunny today? I didn't fly all weekend long because it was cloudy and rainy and cold. So the airplane stayed on the ground. Although I'm not a gadget guy, but my wife is working towards becoming a pilot. So she's at the airport quite a bit flying herself. And she said, I need a multi-tool. So we both got new multi-tools this week. And I've never been a pocket knife carrying guy. I've never been a gadget guy. But man, is this thing fun. I mean, it's screwdrivers and saws and pliers and wire cutters. I don't know why I never, was a gadget guy. But now, holy smokes, I think I'm a gadget guy now. I love this thing. So we have matching ones. Isn't that cute? We both have our little I'm not going to show you all the tools on there. I should do a whole live stream just on our new gadgets. But we got this because, you never know when you got to, tighten a screw when you're flying airplanes or you got to cut a wire. Hopefully not. Tighten a screw. Hopefully that's about all you have to do. Once in a while, something's a little loose and you tighten it up. So hopefully I answered the question about the state of Michigan and the HPHL and Tier 1. What is the best way to marquee Let's get this so you can all see it. Kim says, what is the best way to market our kids at U15? Hey, the strategy starts at 14, 15 years old. You can start doing it. That's when you start wanting to get into attending camps. You want to get into the pre-draft camps. You want to attend any main camp. You can. Usually it's at the lower levels at 15, but at 16, you start getting invited to more of those things. But getting your name out there, getting your name out to colleges at 15 is perfectly appropriate to start sending emails out to say, hey, here I am. Here's this new body you don't know about, or you might find out that they do know about you. So, once again, I'm not here to show my videos, but look at if you really want. There's a webinar. There's a cost to it that goes through the whole marketing process. You can get that through my website. I'll throw the link on this too, but you can get that through the Junior Hockey Advisor website for those of you who are interested. RJ says hi. Hello, RJ. Okay, here's one. My 05 son attended an all-combine in St. Louis for next development. We are looking at the Central Stakes Hockey League for 3HL, trying to decide which to focus on. Boy, hopefully this information I'm giving you is helping you. Over the years, I come here week after week and I say the same thing. You got to get in the best league you can get into, and you've got to get on the best team that's possible inside the best league. So if you have the ability to play in the Tier 1 Elite League, but you're playing on a team that goes, 5-45 for the year, that's probably not going to help you much. So having the Tier 1 Elite next to your name is not important if nobody's watching you play in the Tier 1 Elite. And now you can use that team as a stepping stone to get to another team the next year. But if you're looking at teams to play for, I always start with the league. Then from the league, look to try to get on the highest team possible. If those aren't available, if you can't get on the best league, you want to be on the best team that you can possibly get on inside of the next league available. So whatever the league you can get to, you want to try to get on the best team. Last place teams make it extremely difficult to get seen. And I keep saying this over and over and over. And I know I have one of our members is he recruited me when he was a Division I coach. So his maybe that says something about his judgment. Maybe we should hold that against him. But anyway, he's been on our group many times. He made the comment when I made a comment. He came back and said, "You're wrong. There's people out there like me." Yes, there is. There's that anomaly. But coaches, scouts, and recruiters, when they go into a big showcase, gravitate towards the top teams. It just all you got to do is go to one of these big showcases and see where all the people are hanging out at, or watch. And if you don't know what a scout looks like, if you don't know what a Division I coach looks like, if you don't know what a junior coach looks like, look for black coats, black pants, black shoes. If you think I'm kidding, go to the rink. Go to the rink go to the Nationals. Look for black coats, black pants, black shoes. And the majority of those guys, and especially if they got a clipboard in their hand, you know that's what they're doing. They're out there scouting. So that's the way it works. It's true though. It's true, especially even more so if it's Canadian coaches. Canadian coaches, black runners, black pants, black the hockey jacket, black jacket, and usually a Tim Hortons in the hand, and you know who they are. When our associations either discount the fees for goalies or at least offer consistent goalie training. Boy, that one okay, I don't know. There are organizations out there. I was the president of an organization for years. We always had goalie training set up for our goalie programs. One-on-one, our goalie instruction program went out and skated with the team practices, and we'd buy an hour a week just for the goalies to come out and work with their age groups. So there are out there. You just got to ask, and you got to read the websites to find out there. I guess this is a continuation. Far too many goalie families pay the same price as players with zero coach. Yeah, this has been a problem for years, that goalies pay the same price, but they don't get the same kind of coaching. Yeah, absolutely. You could argue though, and I agree with you 100% on that statement. I agree with you 1,000% on that statement, that I think goalies at most programs don't get the skill development side. But you think that way as a parent. Now, I'll throw this and turn this around on you. Usually you have two goalies going at the same time. You're doing flows, you're doing scrimmages. They're playing 100% of the time in their net. The forwards and the D, they're going every third time, every fourth time. So they're getting 25% of the touches. And that's if they're touching the puck. You're getting a chance to make saves almost every play, especially if you're going at both ends at the same time. Now, with that said, I'm not trying to dissuade you from your thought process because you're 100% accurate on what you're saying. The other side of this is at most levels, you're really not seeing a lot of skill development at 14, 15, 16, and above. All the way through juniors, all the way through pros, unless you're working with somebody on the side. So players, defensemen, forwards, almost all high-end players now are using skill development people outside of their practice. Why? Because if you get a 50-minute practice or you get an hour and a half practice, which is an hour and 20 minutes, what are you working on mostly? You're working on puck movement and flow drills. You're working on maybe some coaches still believe in doing sprints instead of trying to work the sprints into the drills, which is a little bit old school, but that's okay. That's okay. That nobody's judging that. You're working on lines, power play, penalty kill. You're working on transitional stuff, regrouping, and there's not as much skill development going on with forwards and D as you think in most practices these days. In fact, there's a lot of studies out there. If you go to a lot of the coaching, the high level coaching clinics, the advanced and the master's level in USA Hockey, you start hearing the college coaches and the junior coaches talk about the percentage of time actually used on trying to find more time to actually skill development with the forwards and D. It's not there as much as you think. Best options for 17-year-olds. Well, I'm assuming you're talking about hockey. That's about as open as it can be because, look, the best options for 17-year-olds is subjective. Depends on where you live, depends on what's available to you, depends on your social economic status. In other words, an option for one person could be, hey, we're gonna fly over to California, we're gonna play for the Junior Kings next year. That might completely be out of another family's options because they can only afford to drive across town and play for the rival team in their town. So it's very subjective. You've got different markets at 17 where you're starting to open up. Juniors start to come into play if you're living in Minnesota or some pockets of Michigan, some pockets of Wisconsin, some pockets of Boston. High school hockey comes into play. If you're living on the East Coast, anywhere in the Northeast, prep hockey comes into play as a prominent role. So 16s and 18s are still hot, but juniors is coming into play. It's a hard question to answer on what's the best option for a 17-year-old, except for finding that path that you believe is the right path for you. In many cases, it's going 16s, and if 16s doesn't get you to the USHL, it's going 16-18 and playing that year in the U18 level. Sometimes two before you leave for juniors. That's, I can tell you right now, the vast majority of tenders in the North American Hockey League this year came from U18 hockey. Okay, and I've shared a little bit with you. I got to be careful how much I share because it's still, it's an internal document. It's not published, but I can tell you, I read it every day, and the updates once a week updates, I should say. And the vast majority are coming. You get some Minnesota high school kids and a couple prep, but most are coming from Tier 1 Elite. It's not the Tier 1 Elite League only. It's the NAPHL. It's the Tier 1 Elite League. It's the HPHL. It's the Beast. It's a couple other leagues too. So, all right, let's get a couple more comments in here, and then we're going to wrap it up. We've been going now for an hour. I'm a Brazilian Coyotes fan. I hope the Kayaks make a good development for new young players. Hey, welcome aboard. That's an interesting one. Are you a Brazilian that lives in Brazil, or are you a Brazilian that lives in the States? Be curious to know what that is. Okay, here's one. I'll try to give you the nutshell answer. I said, what age should you get an advisor? The first question you should ask is, what's the purpose of getting an advisor? Okay, because advisors, remember, you're getting advice from advisors all the time. They just don't tell you it because we've got over 400 advisors that are a part of our discussion group. The reason why I don't let advisors advertise is because it'd be a feeding frenzy, and half of them would quit because they weren't getting enough attention. And so we stay away from advertising or endorsing advisors on our junior hockey advisor materials, our Facebook page and discussion groups. But they're there. They're throwing out comments from time to time. The first question is, well, what do you need an advisor for? Well, you're going to say, oh, because I want to play college hockey. Well, remember, advisors are like lawyers. If you have a tax concern, you get a tax lawyer. If you've got a slip and fall, you get a slip and fall lawyer. If you've got a contract issue, you get a contract lawyer. It's the same thing with a doctor. I can't say I need a doctor without knowing what you want the doctor for. So one of the first things I'd ask is know specifically what you're trying to do. If you're a 14-year-old trying to get to prep school, there's advisors out there that specialize on getting you to prep and then getting you from prep to junior. If you're trying to go to the West Coast and play in the AJ or the BCHL, there's advisors that focus just on players on the West Coast and playing out in that area. Then there's advisors that you talk to in their first conversation. They tell you where you should be playing. And that should give you alarm bells all over the place. Or they tell you before they've even watched you play or know where you want to go to school that they're going to call these 4 colleges for you right away. So be careful. Be careful with saying, at what age should you get an advisor before you've kind of backed into the process. Remember, you can always change your goals. You can always change and modify your goals. But if you don't have an established flight path, that's a pilot terminology. But if you don't have that flight path of where you want to get to, it's very hard to put the things in places that are going to get you there. So, for example, if I know I want to play Division I hockey, and that's really what my goal is, I don't care what age you're at. Start working backwards from usually prospects. Work backwards. Pull up a team that you really like or your kid really likes that's a Division I team. Look at their roster. Where they play juniors at. Start pulling their names up individually. Go to elite prospects. See where they played their U18 at or U16 at. Look and see where they played 14 at. Do your history on the kid and see where they all came from. Then you can say, okay, I'm here. If I want to be there, I've got to make this step, and this step. And then it's much easier to answer the question of when and how and what advisor to get. But you can't really put that together until everybody says, I want to play Division I hockey. That's great. But not everybody's going to get there. If you're going to put the path together, if you're serious about it and you're going to commit to it, then there's got to be a set path. If your path is, hey, I really think that prep is the direction to go, well, that helps a lot on which advisor to hire. Because there's advisors out there that'll help you a lot to open up the doors to the prep market so you can see what opportunities are there. If you think that you have to move to the Midwest, move to the Detroit market, which, you look at every single team that plays in Detroit, and there's kids from Florida, there's kids from Kansas, there's kids from New Mexico and California and Washington. They're all on those rosters, okay? There's kids from everywhere. It's been going on for 30, 40 years like that. It's been going on since I played in those leagues in the Detroit area. If you want to play there, there's advisors that are really good at getting you placed into those markets as a 16 or an 18-year-old. Okay, so it's really hard to say at what age because it's really what you're trying to accomplish. So, thanks, Chris, Chicago Storm. Yeah, I would have come up with it if I hadn't had so much coffee today. The brain would have kicked in a little quicker on that. Let's see here. Look at this. Pocket knives are lives, but this is better than a pocket knife. They got a name for these now. It's an everyday carry, an ECD. Okay, there's a whole market. There's a whole set of videos on YouTube. There's people that spend their whole time just doing YouTube videos on ECDs, I think they call them, everyday carry devices. So you can't just call this a pocket knife. No. This is much more than a pocket knife. This is an everyday carry essential tool to many people. Not quite for me yet, but I'm getting there. So, but it's those things are cool. Okay, any general recommendations for the 2006 at Nationals this week? I've been fortunate to have my kids play at Nationals. I've been fortunate to coach at Nationals. Never won a national. I won a silver medal, lost 3-2 in the finals one year as a coach. I can tell you there's a few things. One is try to keep your schedule as calm and as sane as possible. This is the one time you don't want to be a tourist, and that you want to make sure that rest and hydration come into play, because the heart rate, the nerves are churning 24/7 for the parents and the players. Try to keep things on as much sanity as the sanity level as you can. Make sure there's quiet time. Make sure there's downtime. Everybody tries to race out and say, well, we only get here once. We're going to do this. If it's in California, we're going to get to the beach every day. We're going to go to Disney. We're going to do this. There's always some time in life to do those things. Maybe you do a little bit. Maybe the team does an event that you got to kind of be a part of, but just be careful on that stuff. That's usually where all the energy is sapped out. And get away from the rink. Get away from the rink. You play your game. There's so much excitement going around. People want to hang around in the rink. The kids want to hang around. Maybe they know other kids. They want to watch other games. Try to limit that. And, but with all that said, smell the roses, man. Not everybody gets to go to nationals, and appreciate it. Take a lot of pictures, take a lot of video, enjoy it. Buy a lot of merchandise, because it is really special. If you get to nationals, you never know if you're going to get back again. So enjoy the heck out of it. But I'm a big believer in that's one tournament. The spring and summer tournaments. We used to go to Boston all the time, so we'd always go to the Wharf. We'd always go down and do the historical tours. We'd always go to a Red Sox game. We'd always go out to Harvard, and we'd try to do all that stuff every weekend. While the tournament was going on, we're always running around. But that's the summertime. At that age, that's perfectly fine. For this one, though, that nice blacked out hotel room with maybe a little gentle music on, both for the parents and kid. Naps might come into play here too. So that's my only recommendation. Who knows? I never won nationals, so I don't know if I'm the right guy to ask. I've been there a lot. I've participated a lot, but I'm the number one, or what do they say? The first loser. I got to the first loser level, but never won it all. So, is it too early for an advisor? Subjective, very subjective. Every family's different. I've seen people at 14 that need an advisor, but I would say that hire an advisor when there's a crossroads and you need to get somewhere that you don't know how to get to. In other words, if you're 15 and you're deciding to leave the market, you're going to prep. Yeah, you got drafted into the USHL, or a lot of USHL teams are showing interest. Those kind of things are where you need an advisor. You're deciding to go play for one of the many academies that are out there now, and you're overwhelmed. A lot of people call me for a 1-hour consultation on those things, and I can help to an extent on when you get those crossroads. But if you need an advisor, I wouldn't advise. I'm going to use the example that I use all the time. I've got 150 kids, 200 kids right now that I'm actively watching, keeping track of. This is with our scouting staff and myself, my counterpart, the coaches. We're watching actively, this group, this pool of players to figure out who we're going to draft, who we're going to invite to camp, who we're going to tender. Okay, we've already got a lot of our tenders done, but we still have to, really focus in on a group of kids. Of that group of kids, the number's way less than half that actually have advisors. People think that they need advisors. You know where advisors usually come from? It comes from the peer pressure from everybody else in the locker room. It's a have-not thing. It's like having a brand new pair of the latest tennis shoes, or the latest, the cool hat or jacket, or the latest skates. All those things come into peer pressure. I'm not really sure everybody needs or is suited for an advisor, but advisors do come into play, and the advisors are great to have if you have a need for an advisor. And that need should be, hey, look, here's the people that usually come to me, and then I say, no, you really need an advisor after we talk it through. You're 16 years old and you're getting pressure that you're going to get drafted into the USHL, and your coaches talk to people, coaches are talking, and it looks like you're going to be a first or second round pick in the USHL. Well, then an advisor that really knows the USHL might come into play, because then they can start shape-shifting things, getting you a lot of information about the teams that are really interested, the ones that are not, because they can call coaches, they can talk to people on a level that you can't. That's a good situation. You want to go to prep, I already used that example. That's a great time to use an advisor. You're looking to jump to juniors from, you played 1 year of U18 and you want to jump to juniors and you're overwhelmed. Maybe it's time. You should really go through all the videos of the stuff we do first, because a lot of times you can answer many of the questions. Remember, advisors by definition, by NCAA definition, are just supposed to advise you. They're just supposed to say, yeah, that's a good idea, and give you advice on directions. They're not supposed to, by definition, be on the phone making phone calls for you. In fact, literally, that's a no-no. Now, that's the most abused rule that the NCAA has, and the NCAA's lost a lot of credibility over the last couple of years about just letting taking their finger out of the dam and letting the whole thing collapse with it depends on what side of the issue you're on with the name, image, and likeness deal. But the bottom line is, make sure you know what you want before you get an advisor. And then there's a whole process of hiring an advisor. I have another webinar on that too, if you want. Most people, though, that are before they hire an advisor, or even after they hire an advisor, I'll usually do a 1-hour consultation with, and it doesn't cost much, less than half the price of a stick to talk to me versus spending $3,000 to $10,000 on an advisor. And I can usually give you both insight on how to hire an advisor and walk you through the process that maybe you don't need an advisor. So U16 next year, heard all the pros and cons of New England Prep, enrolled. We'll play split with New England Prep. Next steps, camps and combines, future move to juniors. That's a very common move now, to play New England Prep and play on a split season team. In fact, there's the vast majority of the top 25 is either strictly, it's the Shaddocks, it's the Northern Christian Academy up in the top of Minnesota there. It's Culver. Those are the true preps. But then you get these teams like the Buffalo Regals, some of the Beast teams. These are, people think Buffalo Regals, oh, that's Buffalo, working class, roll the sleeves up, local kids. There's no local, maybe there's one local kid. I think the Novo kid was one of the kids, one, maybe two local kids on that Buffalo team. The rest are prep kids. They don't even play out of Buffalo. They play mostly on the East Coast and only come back to Buffalo a couple times a year. So yeah, that's and they've got kids from Salisbury. They got kids from all over the place on that team. So playing prep and playing on a split season team kind of gives you the best of both worlds in many cases, but it comes with a price. You have to either have the ability to get some financial aid for the prep schools, or you have to have the ability to pay for prep school, and that's not always something that everybody can do. I'm not sure I agree with this. Friends don't let friends play in the NA3HL. Sorry you feel that way, because I see a lot of value in it, just like I do in a lot of the Tier 3 leagues. If you don't want to play in the NA3HL, then maybe Tier 3 hockey is not for you, and I don't believe that's the case. I think across the board, NA3HL hockey has its place and does a good job. Let's see, thoughts on USA Hockey new goalies initiatives, such as goalies switching halfway through the year, each year through Pee Wee. I'm not a fan. Mandating and dictating what a family and what a kid wants to do with their sports, that'd be like telling some kid that really likes playing in the outfield, you got to play catcher. Now, there's kids that just never, ever, ever want to play catcher in baseball. It's like telling a kid that in soccer you have to play goalie, once every third game. Yeah, I'm just not a fan of that. Just not a fan at all. If you're going to invest the money, if you're going to invest the time to be a goalie and you want to be a goalie, I think it should be play. This is that. I'm not political in the sense of, rah, vote for this guy, vote for that guy, but I am about, less government intervention in things, and especially in hockey. I don't want to see Hockey Canada. I don't want to see USA Hockey telling us what kind of puck we should use, telling us what level of practice, when we hit, when we don't hit, when you have to go to girls hockey versus play boys hockey. All these things, every time USA Hockey makes a rule change, they do it thinking they're doing good things. And I don't know if that's always the case and that's always true. Okay. The reason why I don't believe that is, they put these advertisements out about what a net looks like. You've probably seen these advertisements. The NHL runs them. What a net looks like for a 8-year-old kid. And they show these massive soccer style nets, which is insane. Because does that mean that a guy in the NHL like Brian Jonta or Ryan Callahan, these sub 6 foot guys, some of these guys are, the short guys in the league. I don't know the current crop of really short guys in the leagues, but there's guys out there in the league that are 5'6", 5'8", 5'10". They don't look and go, oh my gosh, the net looks like the size of a soccer. USA Hockey's mentality on this is completely non-scientific because your eyes are what triangulate the size of things, not your height off the ground. If I'm laying on ground as an adult, I see the net the same size as I do if I stand up at my 6'3" height. I get the premise of what they're trying to do, but really the logic doesn't work because your eyes don't change the distance between them. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the distance between your eyes doesn't change much your whole life. So a short kid sees the world the same way an adult does, maybe just at a different height off the ground. So the net doesn't look bigger or smaller because you're 4 foot high. You might look up to adults if you're on the ice with all pro hockey players. Yeah, that would look really strange. I say that because I don't believe in the small nets and I don't believe in the blue pucks because I was teaching kids, from 5 years old how to shoot properly and lift the puck with trajectory and spin on it. At 4 and 5 years old, it can be done. But the lazy way out, in my opinion, this is just an opinion, is to throw in the easy things that make things more. And that's supposed to make people stay in the game more. Taking hitting out of the game is supposed to get, I don't believe in this intervention stuff. If a league in Minnesota, which Minnesota used to have so much more of a backbone, and I used to love the fact that the state stood up to USA Hockey so much, it was fun because they just said, no, we're doing it our way. And their way was great because when they did it completely autonomous of USA Hockey, they were producing always the best players in the United States. For years, Minnesota was ahead of everybody. Now, they're still up there. Don't get me wrong. Minnesota's got great hockey. But they've conceded so many items to USA Hockey when they used to say, nope, we're sticking to our model. We like our model. We're going to do things our way. We don't get that anymore. Now it's just this homogenous, looks the same way, played the same way, we're coached the same way in all these different markets. And you get a lot of political speak about how things have to be done and why they have to be done. Just when you know the background of why the ADM was put in place, that there's not much truth to this. The ADM was put into place because the NHL had $8 million that used to spend in Russia on development of players. When Russia started the KHL, the money had to go somewhere. They turned to USA Hockey, and USA Hockey went, they dusted off a graduate level thesis and said, well, we got this, and they placed that in front of them, and that's what they used to help develop the ADM that we work on now, 10, 12 years ago. It's all factual. I've got a video on it, how a USA Hockey works if you want to watch that. I got to wrap up, folks. I've been going on for a long time tonight. I know there's so many more people have put things on there, put information on there. I'm so glad that you guys were on tonight. I hope you enjoyed the fact that we kind of dispelled some myths about late bloomers, late growers, money in hockey. We dispelled some issues with playing in these elite tournaments at young ages and about the attrition rate that you hear from USA Hockey and Hockey Canada. I'm not bashing these organizations. I just wish they would give players more freedom to do what they want and not dream kill and not dissuade people or guilt people that choose to do these things at young ages. I can't tell you how frustrating it is when I go to a USA Hockey event and the guilt they put on parents for wanting to get involved in these events. When the irony, and I know I said I was going to wrap up, but I got to give you this. The irony of all this is, the irony of these USA Hockey people is look at the National Development Program teams. Look at the players that come through that and track them back and see how many of them played in the Brick, see how many of them played in the Quebec tournament, especially that 99 team. See how many of them have done those, the spring teams and all the things that USA Hockey says don't do. You're talking out of both sides of your mouth, and because your national development team is made up of the majority of the people on that team doing exactly what you say they shouldn't be doing. So it is what it is. Have a great night, folks. We'll see you next week. And I appreciate all the comments. I'll try to get some more questions answered as we go through. And have a great night. Thanks so much.